In this tutorial, we're going to talk about how to create an H5P fill-in-the-blank interactive on Moodle. So the first thing you'll need to do is navigate to your Moodle page. Once you're on your page, you will turn your editing on. And in your activities, you will go to add an activity or resource. And here you'll do H5P interactive content. Click Add. Now in here you'll give it a name. So I'm going to call this Interactive Video. And then under H5P select Content Type, you'll go down to Interactive Video. Click on that, and then you're ready to go. Now in the meantime, I've loaded a video onto our YouTube channel. So we're actually going to take this one right here, the Common Fraction Self-Test 1. So when I click on that link, it opens up our video. I'm going to grab the URL from the top, copy it, and then back in Moodle, where it says here add a video, click on the plus sign, and then paste the link right into the URL page. So insert. So there you'll see that the video has been loaded. And next, you're ready to add your interactions. So when you click on step 2 here, you'll see that the video has been loaded. This is your timeline here at the bottom.
Instructions. Please begin by answering the following questions.
So you can pause, rewind, fast forward your video as well. So when you add your H5P interactive video, it'll show up on your Moodle page just like this. So now to edit your video, you're going to go to Edit Settings, which brings you back to the page where you created your interactive video. Now we're ready to add our fill-in-the-blank interactives. I generally leave about a 3-second gap where the fill-in-the-blank question is going to go in the video. So it's helpful to do that when you're creating your video. So here I left a blank space as an example to add a full screen fill-in-the-blank question. So that's one option. And now the other option that I want to show you is when you have an image that you need to refer to for the question. So for this question, because it's fractions, the question is going to ask, write a common fraction to describe the following. 1, the shaded part of the square, and 2, the unshaded part of the square. So what we want to do is build our question to the right of that image so that the student can refer to the image while they're answering the question. So to create that slide, I just created one in PowerPoint, and then using Camtasia, which is our video editing software, I just added it as a slide right in the video. And just make sure that you leave the space here on the right hand side so that you can insert your question. So now that I have my slide with my shape on it, I'm going to add my interaction. We're going to start by going to right here where it says fill in the blanks. So you click on that button. And what I like to do is generally pause the video and create a poster. And what that does is the question is going to fill a larger part of the screen than, for example, a button. So now what I'm going to do is change the task description to say fill in the blanks. Now down here where you see the text blocks, you'll see line of text. And there's some instructions here that say blanks are added with an asterisk in front and behind the correct word / phrase. So the example they give here is H5P content may be edited using a, and then the star, browser / web browser. So then you see the star here on the beginning and the end of the sentence. And what they've also added here for the example is alternative answers. So if a student is answering the question, they could either put browser or web browser, and both answers would be correct because you've put a / in between the two answers. And a final thing that they've added here to the example is adding a textual tip using a colon in front of the tip. So here are the answers, so the two possible answers, and then there's a colon right beside web browser where they've given a tip. So the tip they've given is something you use every day. So you can choose to add that, or you can choose to leave that out. So I'm just going to hide that for now. And you can always open it back up by clicking on the Show Instructions button here. So now I'm going to add my question. So I click on this box right here, The question is, write a common fraction to describe the following. So the first question is going to be the shaded part of the square, and the second part is going to be the unshaded part of the square. So now we have to design the question so that the person answering it can fill in the blanks. So we've just put text in right now. Now we need to add our blanks. Now it's interesting because normally if you're doing a fill in the blank, it's probably going to be a word question. So just like our instructions here, you might just have a sentence with asterisks around the correct answers, which would be a word answer that the student could type in. But because this is math and because it is fractions, we have to add a little bit of a different spacing and layout for the question. So for here, we want the student to write in a fraction. And of course, fractions are one number on top of another, separated by a straight line in the middle. So we want to lay out our question in that manner. So first, we need to know what the correct answer is. And the correct answer is 5/8. So this is in reference to that square that we saw in the background. Now the shaded part of the square we know is 5/8, and the way that I've written this is an asterisk, number 5, asterisk. Here what I added is an underscore, and what I did was add about 5 underscores to make that straight line that goes underneath the fraction. Just a general tip when working with math questions like this is it's nice to center those because it just looks better when the student goes to fill it in. So I have to do the same thing now for part 2 of the first question. So what I'm doing is I'm just highlighting, copying and pasting the first answer to the second part of the question. But down here, now we need to put the correct answers in for the unshaded part of the square. So the correct answer for that will be 3/8. And now we're done creating our question. So we know that we've put the correct answers in, everything has an asterisk around it, and now let's see what that looks like when we click done. So now you'll see it's created the question as a poster. So poster really just means a rectangle. And here you can resize, move it around, and just place it where you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill up this whole right-hand side of the video. You'll see here that there's a scroll bar because the question continues on past what you can see here on the screen. So now you can have a look. You can see if you like the layout. So anytime you want to edit your question, just double click on it. Now that we've created our question, we can preview it. So when you're done, you just scroll down here. You click Save and Display. Now looking at this screen here, you'll see that we've got our video and this little circle down here at the bottom. If you hover over it, it'll tell you what kind of interactive you've added. So anytime you add an interaction to your video, it'll show up along the timeline here at the bottom as a little circle. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to skip ahead to that part of the video and see that it's paused the video in the spot that we want it to. So now we can actually fill in the question. So the answers that we had are 5/8 for the shaded part of the square, and as you can see I can easily scroll down to the next part of the question where we've got 3/8. And to complete my answer I have to click check, and we know that we've programmed it properly because we have all check marks going down. Now if you're a student watching this video, you just click continue to continue on either watching the video or to the next interactive that you've programmed into Moodle. Now say that you need to make an edit for any reason. You can come back to your course. You can locate the video that you've been working on. Just click Edit Settings again, and here it is. Now you can scroll ahead on the timeline. You just click on that little circle there that you see on the timeline, and that's going to open up your question. Now I do want to add a general suggestion for when creating interactives on H5P. Anytime you add a question to your video, you kind of have to think of this ahead of time. So before you import your video into Moodle, when you're actually designing your video, if you know that you have a question that you want to ask within your video, the general recommendation that I would give is leave that 3-second gap in your video so that you'll have time to pause the video, ask the question, and then continue the video onward. And you can see how that works. You can play your video here. If I just move the timeline up slightly before my question.
Please begin by answering the following questions.
And as the timeline goes, we see that the question is asked. If I press play again, see how it gives just a nice buffer between asking the question and then the next interaction, which we're going to add here, and ask the same question, but this time using a circle instead of the square. Now, a neat trick is you can actually copy and paste your interactives along your timeline. So if I come over here, because I know that my next question is a circle, and I'm basically going to be asking the same question but changing the answers, what I can do is just copy and paste that interactive to another part of the timeline. So if I just move my playhead up a little bit, if I click on that first interaction, and then I click on that square, I'm just going to press Control-C on my keyboard. I'm going to move that playhead down a little bit to when the next interaction shows up, right about here. Control-V to paste. So there we go. And then you'll see here on the timeline below, we've got the first interaction and the second interaction. Now, of course, because we have a different diagram, we want to change the answers to that question. So for this one, I'm going to double click on it. All I'm going to do is change my text answers here. So now let's test that out. Let's go save and display. Now you'll see our video has the two questions, the two fill-in-the-blank questions here on the timeline. So I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit. I'm going to press play, and there, the first question showed up. So because we already tested that one, I'm just going to go check. Obviously, I didn't put any answers in, so they're showing all incorrect. But now I'm just going to move ahead in the video to my next question. So here the playhead goes, and now I'm at the second question. So now I'm going to test this because we just created this one. So I'll put in the correct answers, 2/3 and 1/3. Now I'm going to check. All correct. That means we've programmed that question correctly. So that's it. That's how you create fill in the blank using H5P interactive video. And in this video we showed you how to actually copy and paste and create two questions from one. Now, once you click save and display like we did previously, that means it's been saved onto your Moodle course, so you don't have to worry about losing any of your progress. So if I go back to my course here, you'll see there's my H5P interactive. If I click on it, it brings me back to the video. You'll see the two interactives are there, so we know that we've done that correctly. And now, if that's all that you're adding to your video, then you're ready to go. And if you'd like to continue adding more interactives to your video, all you do is just go back and click Edit Settings like we had in the past.